This sermon's about the perils of trying to be the most important, and the sort of disease which is really hot-wired deep into the human psyche about wanting to somehow be better than other people, to be kind of top of the tree, and the huge problems that come with that. And Jesus preaches against it, but he's always preaching uphill in terms of trying to push water uphill in terms of trying to get the response. And this week it comes with the gospel passage we're looking at, which is about James and John. Also, tragically, I think you can read some of it into the sad death of Liam Payne, the One Direction singer. And I don't pretend to know everything that's going on in his life, but you do think the kind of status and trying to be top in a career, or not being able to be top in a career anymore, is a sort of trigger for unnecessary unhappiness. And really, what Jesus is saying is, you've got to get past this. You've got to get past it. This is not what the kingdom of God is like. You've got to get past it. But let's get to the Bible thing first. The Bible, it's a fascinating bit. It's in Mark chapter 10, if you want to look it up. James and John are two of the disciples, they're brothers, and they sidle up to Jesus while they're going on. And they say, oh, by the way, Jesus, when we come to the kingdom of heaven, obviously you're going to be at the top, you're the king, but could we be at your right hand and at your left? And Jesus, he just looks at them, and he must have been so depressed, because it's just not the point at all. And the first thing he said, look, you don't know what you're asking, because they think he's going to be on a great throne. Of course, he's going to be on a cross. So what they're really asking is, can you be martyred, one on my left, one on my right? And he just says to them, you don't know what you're asking. But also he's disappointed because they've not got the right picture. Then it comes out the other 10 disciples get angry with them. Isn't that fascinating? They get angry with them because, if James and John are at the top, well, what happens to the other 10? And Jesus, he tries to get through to them. He said, don't try and lead, or if you lead, you must be the servant of all, slave of all. He's trying to get past this status, but we find as humans it very hard to get past status. I'll give two examples. One's an extraordinary bit of research which someone did with his students at Harvard University. A professor did it a few years ago. And he had the students in a room and he asked them which of the two future scenarios would they prefer. He said, in 5 years' time, it could be that every single person in this room is earning $100,000 a year. Or, in 5 years' time, it could be that all the people but one are earning $70,000 a year, but you're earning $80,000. You happen to be the one who's earning $80,000 and the others are only earning $70,000. The vast majority of students preferred that scenario. The one where they earned less. They weren't earning $100,000. They were earning less than in the other scenario, but in this scenario they were earning more. And it wasn't the amount of money they're earning which bothered them. It was like their status. They wanted to be slightly higher. Richard Coles became a vicar, but before that was a member of the Communards, and he writes something interesting in his autobiography about kind of the kind of potential ego pitfalls of pop stars. And they have a massive hit in the 80s with Don't Leave Me This Way, and it's kind of top 5 in 12 different European countries. And, they tour around, and it's incredibly lucrative, both in terms of sales, but also in concert pitches. And anyway, their next single, who's the song's name I forget, it gets to like number 18. And they're mildly hacked off. Now, why are they disappointed? Well, it's because their last single went to number 3. So if the last single goes to number 3, number 18 is a total disappointment. If I had a single and I'd got to number 18, it would be amazing. But as soon as you get one level of success, anything slightly less is problematic. And this is where kind of ranking is hugely difficult. And all over the internet, and I'm totally suckered in by it. And I see a YouTube video with the top 5 centuries ever, the top 5 goalkeepers, the top 5 Beatles songs, the top 5, it could be absolutely anything. And they get ranked, and you kind of enjoy ranking, and you start thinking which one's the best. But there's a problem, though, because it kind of relegates perfectly good things because you're putting them behind. Well, what's wrong with Rubber Soul? It's the only 5th best Beatles album. It's a great album. Why do we have to make it less than something else? And really, sadly, you wonder with Liam Payne, who died very sadly from One Direction this week, was part of it. I mean, the main thing is kind of drugs and drink, isn't it? But part of it that the other members of One Direction, when they split up, a couple of them, like Niall Horan, is it, and Harry Styles, have had off the scale levels of fame, you know, really huge successes. And his kind of solo stuff not been quite so successful. And from the outside, you might think, oh, wow, what an amazing life, you've been so successful. But he might not have felt that, because he just knows he's less successful than he used to be, and less successful than the peers whom he kind of might compare himself with. And whilst you're in the comparison game of looking at other people and how well they're doing, you will always make yourself miserable. And this is what happens this is why Jesus is having to talk to James and John. Stop doing that. Just be the servant of everyone. Don't be trying to compare. Don't be trying to top yourself off. That's the road to absolute misery. And it's as true now as it was true then.